You're looking at a region experiencing some of the absolute tightest housing demand in the country right now. Down in New London and Groton, General Dynamics Electric Boat has secured massive, long-term Navy submarine contracts. That means they are steadily bringing in thousands of new workers, from engineering to skilled trades, all of whom need a place to live the moment they arrive. This localized hiring surge is colliding with a statewide shortage. Across Connecticut, the housing supply is currently short by about 110,000 units. This chart shows exactly what that looks like on the ground, a six-figure supply deficit that has driven the available rental vacancy rate down to a tiny 2.2%. For property owners, these numbers translate directly into pricing power and high yields. But capturing that upside requires navigating a landscape that actively punishes missteps. Up in Hartford, lawmakers have been reacting to this tight market with increasing scrutiny. New statutes like HB 6889 and CGS Section 47A-15A have introduced strict statutory limits on rent increases and late fee collections. Under these laws, a single error in a notice or an incorrectly calculated fee can trigger a Fair Rent Commission complaint or cause a court to dismiss an eviction case entirely. Managing a rental portfolio in Connecticut has now fully transitioned from a passive side income into a high-stakes operational liability. To pull high local yields out of your property, you have to trade casual self-management for rigorous professional compliance. Consider the hurdle of raising rent to meet the current state median of roughly $2,150 a month for a standard apartment. This table outlines the new standard. To increase rent on a standard lease renewal, the law now demands a formal 45-day written notice. Sending a casual text message or a standard 30-day notice is no longer a legally binding way to update your terms. Your tenant has the legal right to reject the increase if the formatting or timing is off by a few days. That rejection forces you to restart the 45-day clock, keeping you locked into the old rate and costing a full month of potential income. Failing to systematize your notice windows transforms a routine market adjustment into a permanent financial loss. Enforcement becomes even more technical when a tenant misses a payment. This calendar illustrates the mandatory grace period. For a standard monthly lease where rent is due on the 1st, that payment is not legally late until the 10th day of the month. Many generic property management software platforms are still configured to trigger late fees on the 3rd or 5th day. Charging a fee before the 10th is illegal in Connecticut and can be used to void your right to collect that fee in court. Even when you reach the 10th, fees are strictly capped at $5 per day, up to a $50 maximum, or 5% of the past due rent, whichever is less. You also cannot pyramid these penalties by charging a new late fee on top of an unpaid balance from a previous month. Using a standard $100 flat fee lease template is now a liability that will cause an eviction case to be thrown out. Succeeding in this environment starts with selecting properties built for the local workforce. The town of Groton is currently using a $350,000 grant from the Department of Defense to study the specific housing needs of incoming employees. They have identified a critical need for mission-compatible housing, higher density units that avoid the long lead times of high-rise construction. This means targeting the missing middle, assets like triplexes, duplexes, and bungalow cottage communities. Traditional single-family homes lack the density required to house the sheer volume of electric boat employees moving into the region. Aligning your portfolio with these density needs unlocks steady, premium renters while mitigating the friction of local zoning and fair rent commissions. For the 2026 Connecticut investor, the choice is binary: technologically upgrade your operations or outsource them. If you choose to continue self-managing your properties, your operational path must change. You must invest in specialized property management software that correctly automates the 9-day grace period and 45-day notice requirements. You capture the full yield of the property this way, but the investment effectively becomes an active, legally intensive job. The alternative is the scale investor approach, focusing on 3 to 20-unit multifamily properties. Professional managers provide a sub-30-day turnaround velocity and a legal defense against fair rent commissions that an individual owner often lacks. The financial risk of a single compliance failure now outweighs the hourly value of an owner's personal time. The 2026 Connecticut rental market is defined by a fundamental imbalance. Thousands of defense workers are arriving in Groton and New London, entering a state with a 110,000-unit housing deficit. That massive wave of high housing demand is constantly balanced against the heavy legal requirements of state regulations and fair rent commissions. Operating with legacy lease templates and casual communication is a direct path to financial loss. Audit your software settings and lease agreements now, before your next renewal cycle begins. In 2026, market demand creates the potential for profit, but operational precision is what actually secures it.